Hey Defying Gravity Volleyball family, it's Coach T and I'm back with another YouTube video. In today's video, we're continuing my series where I explain all the volleyball positions, and in part 4, this is all about the outside hitter. Don't forget to check out the setter, libero, and middle blockers parts, but otherwise, let's just hop right into the video. So since this is a beginner's explanation, let's hop right into the forefront. So what is an outside hitter and what does their job description do for their position? The outside hitter is considered to be an offensive leader because they're hitting ideally in the front row left side of the court, also known as spot 4. Remember, there are 6 rotation spots, so 3 front row, 3 back row. That doesn't mean that once the outside gets to spot 1 to serve that they're going to be subbed out. That's all up to the coach. So just keep in mind, yes, you're an offensive leader, but you play a lot of defense, especially depending on your coach's decision and your athletic ability. And I use popularized sports to make comparisons to positions to help people connect and understand their position better. So for the outside hitter, I chose to compare it to the wide receiver in football. The reason for that is because the wide receiver works alongside the quarterback, and like we learned in my other parts, the setter is like the quarterback in football. The setter is choosing who they distribute the ball to in offense. They're trying to make sure you get the most points and really choose efficient decisions in order to distribute the ball to their hitters, the right side, the middle, and the outside hitter. The setter's, yes, choosing who they set the ball to, but the wide receiver is the one who's looking to finish the ball. You might be set up the ball, but that doesn't mean you guys earn the point because the setter chose you to set up the ball. You're the one that finishes it with your kill, your tip, your push, whatever you choose to do. Your goal is to get a point earned right away from your attack. I think it just shows a really good comparison to who you're working closely with, what your main job description looks like. And the outside hitter is getting distributed the ball a lot of the time because the outside is at an angle where you can push any bad pass over there and hopefully still get an attack without just a free ball. All right, so in this next session, we're really going to dive into what sets apart a great outside hitter from a phenomenal outside hitter. And I think these attributes really help me dive into how I'm picking my starting outside hitters, what makes a great one and a phenomenal one, the big difference between when I'm having to choose between 2 great athletes, how I choose one over the other. So I came up with 5 attributes. The first one is stamina and endurance. Second one is a consistent and explosive attack. Third is athletic ability. Fourth is efficient decision making. And the fifth and final one is communication skills. So like we just learned, stamina and endurance, the outside hitter is getting distributed the ball a lot. And that's even for teams that aren't beginners that have the athletic ability to give a good pass in order to have more options for hitters. There's definitely still a discrepancy on big teams where the outside is getting a lot of the reps. And that's not to say they get 100% of them, but they are getting it distributed slightly more than the middle or right side usually. Again, if you're taking my words at exact face value, I think there's a disconnect already. So just take my things as what I'm saying and not matter of fact. That's always the case. Everything's different every season and athlete's different. So if I'm saying the outside gets the most reps, but you're like, well, I'm an outside and I never get set, your team's different. Majority of the time, the outside, because of the angle, like logistically, the outside is at an angle where the middle and right side aren't, where you can still push the ball. So you need to have stamina and endurance as an outside because sometimes during even long rallies with just 1 point, you're getting distributed the ball over and over and over again. It's very fast paced and it sounds like it's easy. It's definitely not. It takes a lot of stamina and endurance. And when I was a setter and I played in high school, my starting outside hitter, I set her like infrequently. Like I still set my middle and right side very consistently, but I set her obviously the most when I needed side out. But I would see after a long rally, she was like, and she was very athletic. She was playing volleyball since before high school. So that's just to say, you need to have stamina and endurance if you think you're going to have a starting outside spot at the varsity level. It's a necessity for the outside position. The second one, consistent and explosive attacks. So the reason I chose this one is because the outside hitter position is a very competitive spot. There's usually long line of people that are like, I'd love to be an outside. And there's not really anyone for right side and middle. I personally think that attests to people not knowing about the positions enough. They just see, oh, outside hitter hits so much, I want to go there. So I just wanted to put in there that if you really want to be an outside hitter and that's your goal, whether that's just because you want to be the best on the team or because you genuinely are interested in that position, then I think you have to have a consistent and explosive attack because you're competing with probably a lot of other people. There's probably not a lot of people competing for middle or right side, and that's usually for beginner teams. It's usually not seen at collegiate levels because everyone's competing for a position at every spot for the collegiate level, but for beginner or high school teams, the outside hitter position is the most sought after. So if you want a starting spot, you're competing with a lot of people, so you need to set yourself apart from your competitors and teammates and have that explosive attack. I will also say, because my third point is efficient decision making, you can't just have a really hard swing and be like, see, I'm the best hitter. Like, I hit the hardest, I get the starting spot. You also need to be efficient and consistent with your decision making. If you're getting a lot of the balls, you need to know when to not swing, because if you're just constantly full swing, the opponents on the other side, if they're athletic, will know to just block you and keep adjusting their block and their defense, and they'll start picking up where you like to hit. Instead, you can really utilize the areas on the court. So if you see an open spot right over the block, then you might tip over the block. If you see an open spot in a deep corner across court, you'll probably push to the deep corner and make them work for it. Utilizing your other options and being a little less ego driven and not like, oh, see how hard I can swing. Why don't you also show how tricky you are? Because that will actually frustrate your opponents. Because if you're swinging hard on them and they're not getting it, it's like, as an opponent, it's like, oh yeah, that was that was a rough one. Let's go again. But if my opponents are doing tricky things where they're going right over the block and making me dive for it and I miss it, or pushing to a corner that we left open, that's way more frustrating and gives so much more momentum to that other team. So just making sure you're combining those 2 points. So athletic and being agile is something that you can say about any position in any sport, like I've said in my other parts. But as an outside hitter, you need to have a baseline of athletic ability, and don't be discouraged. Does it mean that if you're not athletic right now, you can't develop that over many years of practice and working hard at it? And finally, communication skills. As I've already said in the other parts, I put communication skills for almost every position because you need communication skills on the volleyball court in general. Volleyball is a very communicative team sport. So I just have to add that as an attribute, because I could have the most athletic, consistent outside hitter, but if they're not able to communicate and they're very quiet, I'm actually going to reconsider, and I'm being genuine. I will reconsider putting them in a spot like that. That's to go with any other position. If they're like great at everything but communication, I do start to reconsider if I need to put someone else in that spot. So that's why it is repetitive, but it is a necessity. All right, so in this last section, I'm going to give you guys my outside hitters that I think you should be watching. We all know by now that it's not just about getting reps in volleyball, it's also about watching volleyball. Those are the 2 ways that you can get better at the sport. I do want to make a little disclaimer before I say all my outsides. Yes, some of these outsides that I'm listing are also considered right sides, but I haven't even done my right side part yet. But a big thing that I'll talk about in that section is that right sides are very versatile. And versatile means you can be put in any situation and you can excel there. Oh, they're versatile. That's probably why they do multiple positions. That's happened almost every season of mine. My right side hitter is usually the one that I would consider putting somewhere else, and it happened my last fall season. My right side hitter became my starting libero due to injury, and I need to put someone there, and she adapted the quickest. So that's my disclaimer. Just keep that in mind. If I'm saying someone's an outside and they also play right side, it's okay. Relax. It's okay, guys. It's really okay. My first one is Anna DeBeer. She was a Louisville alumni, and she's now a professional volleyball athlete. She plays for the Indiana Ignite, and I definitely want to start with Anna because she is very, very well known in her hometown, Louisville. She is a big name there for rightful reasons, and her being a pro player is just really attesting to her passion and hard work. She's so explosive, and learning from someone that I think shows not just athletic ability, but also the passion she has for her sport and how that seeps into her everyday life, not just on the court, is the kind of athlete that I'd want to push to my own athletes to learn from. So next is Jess Music. So she is a Penn State alumni and is also now a pro volleyball player. She just won the national championships with Penn State. And now as a pro player, she plays for Love Houston. So it's really fun to be able to follow these athletes and see them start to go to pro. I'm a big Penn State volleyball fan. I have been for a decade. And not only watching her win a national championship, but seeing her completely destroy her position in a good way. To me, that's a good way. She was phenomenal in the finals. And I say this about any of the athletes that I talk about, it was hard to even take my eyes off of her. Like sometimes her swings, I literally was like, oh, I gotta pause this because her swings and powerful, and I think Jess is a really good example of explosiveness and being intentional with her choices, but also like her strength is undeniable. Her swing, I didn't see anything like it in the finals, so her swing was chef's kiss. So next I'm going to talk about Matt Anderson. So I've been watching him for many, many years since I was a kid. And yes, he is also considered a right side, but Matt to me is one of the best outside hitters in history because he's been so good and consistent throughout these years. And seeing him play with the men's national USA team in the Olympics was really fun to see in real time as an adult. He is very consistent, but I think the main thing that really pushes me to him, so I don't have to say all the same attributes because they all are professional and D1 athletes, is the way that he's a leader on the court. I think it's really easy to say the libero and the setter are leaders because that is the truth and that's something I agree with. But seeing other athletes just really step up due to their experience and their respect that the other teammates have for them, just being a natural leader and completely changing the game in a positive way through their leadership, like Matt does, is something that makes him one of the greatest outsides that I would always suggest my athletes watch. Next is TJ DeFalco. So he is also on the men's national USA team and he played in the Olympics. He's also playing overseas now. He's really, really fun to watch. He's very active on socials if you want to keep up with an athlete that way, and that makes you feel more engaged with the position. So TJ is obviously great. I don't want to sound like a broken record for all of these athletes, but he's a bit younger and he has, I think, that passion. He's willing to constantly post his highlights online to share with others. So I think he's really a good athlete to connect to because it's okay, but not all athletes want to post online or post their highlights for their fans. But TJ is one of the people that does that a lot and consistently. So if you would like to learn from someone and connect from someone that way, like on social media, then I would suggest definitely checking out TJ. The next one is Merritt Beeson. She's a Nebraska alumni and now is also a pro volleyball player. She now plays for the Atlanta Vibe, and she is known as one of the current best athletes in general, no matter her position. Her debut in pro volleyball, she was breaking records and setting stats, and it was just, I think it just attests to like when an athlete is an athlete, they will excel at any position, and she's very versatile. She can do outside, she can do right side, and no matter where you put her, no matter who you put her with, she will connect and she will find a way to excel in that position. That's why I think it's important to include people that aren't just one specific position. I think including athletes that are versatile and have multiple positions is actually more beneficial for everyone else to learn from, because watching someone as versatile as Matt Anderson or Merritt Beeson is, it's just the best way to learn. So why keep it so strict when you can learn from people that are excelling at multiple positions at pro levels? Like you can't beat that. My last one is Serena Koga. So she's actually now a retired volleyball player this past year in 2024, but she was on the women's Japan national team for the Olympics, and that's the first time I ever watched her play was the Paris Olympics. I know an athlete is very important to their team and their team's effectiveness when I can't stop watching them play. There's 6 people on each side of the court, and there's so many things going on in that small court of volleyball that if I can't take my eyes off of one person, that's how I know that athlete I need to watch. And Serena was that person for me. I could not stop watching her. I had to look her up after I watched one of her matches in the Olympics. So I think, again, that's a really good way to see athletes that you're connecting with. Her swings were crazy. Like I would compare it to Jess. So I really loved watching her play. Well, I hope that helped you guys out. The attributes and the outsides to watch, I think, are the biggest things that help fundamentally when I'm teaching positions to people. If you would like a more intermediate explanation of this position or any of the other positions once this series is done, please comment that down below because I can definitely do that. This is very basic, fundamental explanation, but there's a lot more that goes into each position. So just let me know. Please also don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. There's a lot of you that aren't subscribed that return to come watch me, so we're going to hopefully fix that. And also don't forget to follow my TikTok and Instagram. TikTok is good for it now and it's live. And my Instagram is very consistent. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel, but also if you follow my TikTok and Instagram, I post my YouTube videos there right away when it's live. I also post memes. I post my website blog posts on there. So there's a lot you might be missing just from following my YouTube channel. If not, though, thank you guys so much for watching part 4 of the What Are the Volleyball Positions series. Next up, we either are going to have opposite or DS. There's only 2 positions left, so stay tuned for that. But if not, thanks for hanging out, and hopefully I'll see you again. Bye.